If you wake up feeling stiff and sluggish, joints a little achy, brain wrapped in fog, or like your thoughts are moving through thick air, you're not alone. You may even be struggling with issues you think are normal. Issues you don't even realize are issues. Many people finish meals and feel puffy, heavy, or mentally off, even when they're trying to eat well. Arguably, one of the top 3 main causes of unhealthy people with hormones out of whack is seed oils. Canola, soybean, sunflower, corn, grapeseed, safflower, and vegetable oil. Blends are cheap, neutral tasting, and stable for factories, so they're in everything. Salad dressings, mayonnaise, chips, restaurant frying oil, baked goods, and even healthy granola bars. I myself grew up on canola and vegetable oil. I had a weak immune system, extreme bloat and puffiness, extreme acne and an oily face, low energy, insomnia, constant brain fog, low testosterone, and a whole host of other issues. These oils are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, especially linoleic acid. Omega-6 isn't evil by itself, we need a small amount. But the modern diet has pushed our omega-6 to omega-3 ratio from a natural 1 to 1 or 4 to 1 to 15 to 1, 20 to 1, or worse. That imbalance matters because omega-6 and omega-3 compete for the same enzymes in the body. When omega-6 wins out, the body produces more pro-inflammatory compounds, eicosanoids like prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Over time, this creates low-grade chronic inflammation that causes stiff joints, brain fog, fatigue, mood swings, skin issues, trouble losing weight, and a cooked hormonal system. Chronic inflammation from excess omega-6 is linked to pretty much every modern complaint I hear about. Feeling off, poor recovery after workouts, constant low-level pain, and that wired but tired feeling. Studies show that high linoleic acid intake raises inflammatory markers such as CRP and IL-6, while lowering omega-3s makes it worse. When people cut seed oils and increase omega-3s from fatty fish, grass-fed meat, and good oils, those markers often drop, and people feel clearer and lighter. I felt it myself. Less puffiness, sharper focus, and energy off the charts. I used to have that weird problem where I had low energy, but I also had no focus and way too much energy simultaneously. Kids bouncing off the walls, while also somehow feeling sluggish and stiff. This is a purely dietary issue. Then there's the estrogenic concern. Linoleic acid and other omega-6 fats can increase aromatase activity, the enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen. In men, this can contribute to lower testosterone, higher estrogen, and that soft, low-energy feeling. In women, this influx of imbalanced estrogen can throw their endocrine systems out of whack, causing heavier periods, mood swings, bloating, and breast tenderness. Chronically high omega-6 shifts will, unfortunately, make you a soy boy beta cuck, as the youngins say, especially when combined with xenoestrogen from plastics and other sources. Another big issue is oxidation. Seed oils are high in polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs, which have multiple double bonds. Those double bonds make them unstable. They oxidize easily when exposed to heat, light, or air. When you cook with them, frying, baking, even long storage, you create oxidized lipids and aldehydes, nasty compounds linked to inflammation, DNA damage, and accelerated aging. Oxidized seed oils are what make deep-fried fast food so heavy in your stomach. Butter, ghee, olive oil, coconut oil, tallow. These are more stable saturated or monounsaturated fats. They don't oxidize as readily. So why did we end up eating so much of this stuff? It's not a conspiracy, it's basic corruption and economics. Seed oils are dirt cheap to produce at scale. In the early 1900s, cotton seed oil, a waste product, became vegetable shortening. After World War II, the vegetable oil industry pushed hard, funded studies, lobbied the American Heart Association, and convinced everyone that saturated fat was the enemy, while polyunsaturated oils were heart healthy. We replaced lard, butter, and tallow with Crisco and canola. and chronic inflammation, obesity, and metabolic issues skyrocketed in the decades that followed. I'm not saying seed oils are the only cause of modern health problems. Sugar, ultra-processed food, stress, and lack of movement all play huge roles. But they're one of the biggest factors in you being a fat ass. If you want to stop being a soy boy beta cuck and want to sit at the cool kids table, then start doing these. Stop buying or cooking with canola, soybean, sunflower, corn, grapeseed, safflower, or vegetable oil. When eating out, ask for olive oil or butter if possible, or just eat foods that aren't fried or dressed in mystery oil. Stop eating out at shitty fast food places. Check packaged foods. If the label says vegetable oil or lists any of those seed oils, put it back. And stop eating shitty half-cancer, half-estrogen packaged food in the first place. The way these oils are made is honestly shocking when you look into it. Most seed oils start with tiny seeds that naturally contain very little oil. To extract it profitably, manufacturers use an industrial process that's nothing like pressing olives or grinding coconuts. Here's the basic flow. The seeds, canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, etc., are crushed and heated to high temperatures to loosen the oil. They're then soaked in a chemical solvent, usually hexane, which is derived from petroleum, to pull out every last drop of oil. The solvent is later removed, but trace amounts can remain. The crude oil is then degummed, bleached with chemicals or clay, and deodorized at extremely high temperatures, often 400 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit / 200 to 260 degrees Celsius. This final deodorization step is what makes the oil completely tasteless and odorless, but it also destroys the delicate polyunsaturated fats and creates oxidized byproducts and trans fats. This heavy refining is why seed oils are so cheap and shelf-stable, but it's also why they're so problematic for the body. Take canola oil specifically. Its story is wild. The original rapeseed plant produced oil high in erucic acid, which was toxic to the heart muscle in large amounts. In the 1970s, Canadian scientists bred a new low erucic acid variety and marketed it as Canadian oil low acid, hence the name canola. Before that, industrial rapeseed oil was commonly used as a lubricant for machinery, including in some engines and as a motor oil additive during and after World War II. So yes, the plant's oil was literally used in industrial applications before the food version existed. The modern canola we buy is not the same as old industrial rapeseed oil, but it's still a highly refined product that never existed in nature in this form. Cottonseed oil started as a toxic waste product from the cotton industry, full of gossypol, a natural toxin, and was later refined and sold as vegetable shortening, Crisco, in the early 1900s. Soybean oil is mostly a byproduct of soy processing for animal feed to fatten up animals. If this GMO pesticide-sprayed soy is used to fatten up cattle, what do you think it's doing to you? None of these oils was traditionally eaten in large quantities by humans. They only became dietary staples in the last 100 years, because factories could produce them cheaply at massive scale. When you eat these heavily processed, oxidized, high omega-6 oils day after day, your body has to deal with the damage, increased inflammation, disrupted cell membranes, higher oxidative stress, and that skewed omega-6 to omega-3 ratio I mentioned earlier. Chronic inflammation will absolutely destroy your hormones and spike your cortisol constantly, giving many people that puffy and oily face and constant sluggishness. That's why swapping them out often gives people such a noticeable shift in how they feel. Less fog, less puffiness, quieter joints, steadier energy. That's why this one swap feels so powerful. You're removing something your body was never designed to process in these amounts and replacing it with fats that are stable, minimally processed, and actually support your cells. What's even more frustrating is how aggressively these oils were pushed as healthy, while the traditional fats our grandparents used were suddenly labeled dangerous. It started in the early 1900s. The vegetable oil industry, led by companies like Procter & Gamble with their Crisco shortening, had a problem. They had huge amounts of cheap refined seed oils as byproducts, But people were still cooking with butter, lard, tallow, and olive oil. So they launched a massive marketing and science campaign. The same experts who were bought off to say cigarettes were healthy are the same people who sold you this lie again. And yet people actually trust them? They funded studies, influenced medical organizations, and paid for advertising that blamed saturated fat and cholesterol for heart disease. The American Heart Association, which received early funding from the vegetable oil industry, began recommending polyunsaturated oils and warning against butter and animal fats. Ansel Keys' famous 7 countries study, which helped launch the low-fat diet era, was heavily promoted, even though critics pointed out that he cherry-picked countries to fit his theory and ignored places where people ate lots of saturated fat and had low heart disease. By the 1960s and 70s, the message was everywhere. Butter is bad. Use vegetable oil for a healthy heart. Dietary guidelines were followed. Schools, hospitals, and restaurants switched. Traditional cooking fats were pushed out, and cheap seed oils flooded the food supply. So the industry funded the research, shaped the narrative, and won the public conversation for decades. This was a small factor in our change from people to profits, and a larger plan to weaken the population and feminize the men. But that's a topic for another time. I'll simply ask you this. Why would a key staple of the human diet that we've relied on for basically all of human history be so bad? You would think ancient humans would just be dropping dead from heart disease and obesity like we are now if that were the case. How the hell can new modern issues be caused by ancient foods? It makes no sense, but people nowadays are so obedient to whatever the media and government say that they will just call you crazy or a conspiracy theorist and disregard your point before going back to doom scrolling. That's all for today. See you next time.